Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
At Metro, the best deal in wireless is on. Switch to Metro and get 1 full Amazon Prime membership included every month. Plus, get 2 free phones from top brands like Samsung and LG with huge HD screens. All with 2 lines for just $90. That's the best deal in wireless, only at Metro. Plus sales tax and activation fee. Requires port in of eligible number not currently active on T-Mobile network or active on Metro in past 90 days. Limit 4 per account or household. Offer subject to change. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Amazon Prime has a $12.99 per month value. Restrictions apply. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network. You can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. One more time, I want to thank all the people who came out for our 200th episode last week at Tin Shed in Savage. It was a huge crowd, the hugest crowd we've probably ever had for this show. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for doing that. Thanks to Tin Shed for hosting. What's our next show live, Michael? July 31st?
July 31st.
July 31st at 7 p.m. July 31st at 7 p.m. at Tin Shed in Savage, tinshedmn.com, or follow them at Tin Shed Savage on Twitter. July 31st, 7 p.m. Get there, have a lot of fun, have a lot of food. We had a blast last time. We really do appreciate the support. Sorry we had to cancel the one earlier this week. We just had some logistical problems, and so that's our next live show. Thanks once again to everybody who supported the program, which includes Twill and the Edina Galleria, Tin Shed, Fixologyrepair.com, Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent, Champlin, and BiteSquad.com. The promo code for Bite Squad deliveries is Talk North. All right, so we have not talked since they signed Zuccarello and Hartman. Just give me your reaction.
I mean, there's multifacets with like everything that any team does, but on this one, on the short term, I think Zuccarello is going to help the team. On the long term, I think 3, 4, 5 years from now, the Wild are suddenly going to be staring at potentially 36, 36-year-old Parisi, Suter, and Zuccarello under contract. This is a classic case where I think sometimes the GM is just worrying about now and saying, we'll deal with that when it comes, and maybe it might not even be me that deals with it. That happens a lot in today's NHL. And so on the short term, he made a move that I think that he's not worried about. But, 3, 4, 5 years from now, the Wild potentially could have another problem. Now, the thing with Zuccarello is he can skate. He has been, other than last season, fairly durable the last 5 years in a row, 77 or more games or more. So he doesn't look like somebody that's going to suddenly become the one thing you see with big guys when they age is that doesn't happen gracefully. We've seen it maybe with Wayne Simmons, arguably. We've seen it with Danny Heatley here. We've seen it even with Thomas Vanek. Guys like Zuccarello look like that. I can't see where all of a sudden he's going to stop skating. So for the short term, it's the guy they were able to get in free agency. If they don't get him, they either are going to make probably a long-term decision on Wayne Simmons, or they're going to have to sit this one out. And I don't think that was that Paul Fenton or Craig Leopold wanted to do that. Obviously, there's pressure from above Paul Fenton to get back into the playoffs, and it was very clear that Anders Lee, one, wasn't interested in playing here, but the other thing is that he wasn't interested in talking to any teams about negotiations because he had always hoped to go back to the Islanders, and Paul Fenton couldn't wait that long regardless. And and then risk striking out. And Joe Pavelski wanted nothing to do with here. I mean, that's just a fact. They could say that the Wild were close and one of the finalists. He didn't want to come here. He wants to win, and that wasn't happening. And then Panarin was somebody that the Wild just could not afford. There's just no way to get that done and then do the rest of their business this summer. So that left Matt Zuccarello. In a game of musical chairs, the Wild wound up having to give him a fifth year. The only team that I understand offered him that fifth year, and they had to give him a no-move clause. That's the price of doing business when you go and spend money in free agency.
So the outsider view my outsider view on this is Zuccarello is a nice addition, but it's also a little confusing because, as you said, it's like Fenton came in and he made moves that looked like he was trying to blow things up and start over, and yet then he brings back Eric Stahl when he could have traded him away, and he signs a veteran player to a long-term deal. I can't say this is a bad move. It's just confusing to me.
Well, and we've talked about this on the podcast a lot. I mean, it does seem a lot of times they sort of shoot at the hip and don't have a set absolute plan here, and they kind of weave from plans at some point. And you're right. I mean, if you're going completely young, you're probably not re-signing Eric Stahl. If you're going completely young and rebuilding, you're not bringing back Zuccarello. But as we've also discussed, it's almost impossible for this team to go full rebuild when you have another year of Mikko and you have Ryan Suter that's definitely always going to be here, and Zach Parise, who's very, very difficult to trade. So it's just impossible. So in a lot of ways, Paul's hamstrung there. And then you do have an owner that's wanting to sell tickets and wanting to make the playoffs and isn't willing to go through the pain of an absolute disastrous season. So, there's all sorts of pressures here. But I will say this. I mean, Paul Fenton loves Zuccarello. I was hearing it all year long. So I think that the Wild, whether he had the pressure or not, they probably would have, if Pavelski said no, gone after Zuccarello anyway, regardless of whatever the plan was to get young.
You just said it would be very difficult to trade Parise. That just raised in my mind the question, is there any chance of trading either Suter or Parise if they decide they wanted to?
Well, Suter's not somebody that they're entertaining any trading, and Zach, I just don't see it. There's the cap recapture situation. He's got 6 years on a deal that pays him $7.5 million, and he's 35 years old this summer. So there's just not a lot of teams that are willing to take on that type of risk. When the reality is that on the back half of 35, he's not going to be the same player. There are teams out there that you do, wonder if they would have maybe been intrigued. One would have been the Islanders. Now that Anders Lee goes back there, it's probably not the Islanders anymore. So that now takes a very limited pool of teams that maybe even were going to be interested in them, and that cuts it big time. So, I think it's probably a fruitless endeavor anyway. To even consider it. I just don't see what type of team could take that on at this point in his career. But that doesn't mean that Paul Fenton can't continue to just ask teams, that teams can't call and inquire about him. But it just, a real outlandish unlikelihood thing that they were going to be able to move him or would want to move him, whatever way you want to characterize it, it probably goes down big time now that the Islanders brings back, if they lost on Panarin and lost Anders Lee, then maybe you call Lou and say, hey, you remember that guy you absolutely loved in New Jersey? Well, would you be interested? Now I think it's financially impossible for them and very unlikely.
Just mentioned we did our 200th episode last week. Twill in the Edina Galleria has been with us most of our history. We really appreciate Scott Dayton's support in the sport of Twill. Find out all their stuff at twillmn.com. And if you've become a fan of Twill, you can even go to their website, go to the bottom of the homepage, and they have Twill Notes. You can sign up for a Twill Notes newsletter to let you know what's in the store, what's coming up. They do a lot of special events. I've been covering golf this week. I've worn my Peter Millar stuff. I've worn my Johnny O stuff. I have the Brax pants that are great in the summertime. I have the Trax shoes that are just the most comfortable dressy type shoes I've ever worn. They have Barber. They have everything else. Check out twillmn.com. I'm here with my wife, Stacy. We went to Twill in the Edina Galleria the other day. We saw Scott Dayton, and I bought the nicest sport jacket I've ever owned, the most comfortable pants I've ever owned. They're Brax. a nice pair of loafers that I can wear to the ballpark. I think they're called Tracks. And I bought a bunch of Stenstrom short sleeve shirts to go with my Stenstrom nice dress shirts. And, I used to wear just disposable clothes. Now when I buy something, I buy it at Twill. I know it's going to last me the rest of my life and it's going to be comfortable.
And on top of that, it's not just the best stuff you've ever had, but it's really everyday things that you can wear and that will fit all occasions.
Yeah, I've worn the Stenstrom short sleeve shirts every day this week. When I dress up or even just want to look nice at a game or a Lynx game or something, I wear the Stenstrom dress shirts. But really, the Brax pants are the most comfortable I've ever worn. They are more comfortable than jeans. I never thought I'd have anything more comfortable than a broken-in pair of jeans.
And he keeps saying that, Scott, so thank you very much.
Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill on Instagram. So tell me more about Hartman.
As Bruce says, we'll call him a shift disturber. How about that? That's what Bruce called him in print the other day, only he had used a 4-letter word, which made me laugh. That's the type of person that he is. I think, it's funny. I mean, in a lot of ways, I think this is like Potato, where Paul Fenton absolutely loved Hartman when he acquired him in Nashville. And then all of a sudden he's suddenly available in the Wild, and Paul just decided, I got to go get that guy. Where now it really creates, kind of like Potato, a bit of a pickle on the roster. Now Hartman's taking that fourth line role that suddenly might inhibit somebody from making the team, or take a guy like Victor Rask, who Paul wants playing, and now all of a sudden Rask might not be in the lineup. Or take a guy that Jerry Mayhew probably earns the right to at least try out for the team in training camp, and now it probably inhibits his ability to make the team. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of like if you go take a history lesson back to Potato, they claimed him a day after acquiring Brett Hunt, and then all of a sudden what they had to do to fit him is send guys like Eriksson Ek and Cunnin, who were playing quite well at the time, down to the minors. Couldn't get him back up after the bye week and the All-Star game because there was no roster room anymore. And then all of a sudden the Wild lost a couple games coming out of the break, and they had to react by putting Prosser and Brown on waivers to be able to call up Cunnin and Eriksson Ek. So sometimes, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have signed Ryan Hartman, but sometimes, you just can't do it if all of a sudden it creates roster issues for you. So we'll see. In terms of Hartman as a player, hard-nosed, skates well, has shown some skill in the past, was a first-round pick, not signed to a very expensive contract, not a lot of risk with a couple years. He's 24 years old, so not a 32-year-old. So it's a calculated move by Paul Fenton that knows this player better than all of us, and he believes that he's going to come here and help out a team that isn't the most physical or the most hard-nosed team in the league, that's for sure.
By the way, this is the Russo-Souhan Show, part of the TalkNorth.com podcast network. You can find all the shows at TalkNorth.com or subscribe on your favorite podcast app to either the show or the network as a whole. Tons of great content constantly coming at you on all the local sports. One thing that stuck with me, Michael, that you've said a few times is you're probably better off having an organization that can develop its own grinders and fourth liners than always having to go out and get one.
Yeah, the only difference with this one compared to everybody else that they always get is he's 24, where everybody else they always get. But I agree with you. I mean, to me, this is why you have a minor league system, to be able to fill this type of role from within. Not that Jerry Mayhew is a grinder, but give him the ability to make the team. And the Wild do. They always, for the history of this team, go out and acquire these players. I mean, Matt Cook, Brad Staubitz, Darryl Powell, Eric Nystrom, on and on and on. Marcus Foligno, even, on and on and on. They've always done that, and it just seems to me like this is a role where you could really help your salary cap in other areas by going out and giving the job to $700,000, $800,000 players, and then being able to go and swing the fences for maybe more expensive players than your top 6 or your top 4 blue line. So, but look, I will say I like Ryan Hartman as a player, but again. I don't know a lot how much forethought there was on Paul Fenton's point of view that if you sign Hartman, what that is going to do to all the guys that he wants getting major ice time. If Luke Cunnin is going to play center, he's almost going to have to play center now to be able to get guys like Donato and Greenway or those two in particular on the team. And that now leads to Victor Rask in the press box, a $4 million player, when Paul Fenton's been telling us all along that he wants Rask to have the ability to come to camp and really earn a role on this team. Well, if they're healthy, I don't see how it's possible. Now, though, if you put Cunnin on right wing, that slots everybody down because you're, I assume, going to want Hartman playing. And now the question is Eriksson Ek on your fourth line? Is Greenway or Donato even on the team? When a year ago, I think that the Paul in the second half really wanted the guys like Fiala, Donato, Cunnin, Eriksson Ek, Greenway to get significant ice time to help them develop for the future. So, just like a lot of things, it's sort of confusing. Some of the moves that are made at times, but that's also part of running a team where all of a sudden maybe you're not identifying Ryan Hartman as even being potentially available. Next thing you know, he's not qualified by a team, and a guy you really like is suddenly available. So it's funny. I was Saturday. I was starting on Friday to get a real good sense that Simmons, that they were starting to really doubt that they wanted to go long term with him, and you could see that he wound up only getting a 1-year deal at $5 million. So if the Wild went long term with him, they were essentially negotiating against themselves. But so Friday, I started to really start figuring out, all right, if they're not going to go and give Simmons the long term deal, and I'm starting to get through the grapevine that they're starting to sour on that type of risk. Well, who's next? Well, it's obviously going to be Zuccarello. So I was at Delwood Country Club on Saturday, and the entire second part of this day golfing, the whole thing, I was on my phone texting, calling, and finally by the 17th hole, I said to my friend, I'm like, you got to take me to my car right now, because that's when I confirmed that Hartman and Zuccarello were essentially a done deal, and that's why I went so strong on it that night. But the second that Hartman became available, you just kind of had this sense that Paul would go after him, because I know that he has a lot of admiration for him, a lot of respect for him as a player. And then the second that Simmons, and that's kind of why I always tell you that a lot of this job is just reporter instinct. The second that I started through sources figuring out that they weren't really wanting to go after Simmons anymore, and I knew they were striking out on Pavelski, that's when you just really focus all your efforts on trying to figure out, all right, is Zuccarello coming here? And it was very clear to me on Saturday that he was.
Interesting. Hey, I want to thank Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. They do jewelry, watch, and smartphone repairs. I know John Hedges told me they're doing a watch sale out at the Mall of America location. 3 locations, Mall of America, downtown St. Paul in the Skyway, downtown Minneapolis in the Skyway. And they do cleaning and polishing of jewelry, ring sizing, stone matching, necklace repair, bracelet repair, pearl and bead restringing, sterling silver repair. So it's not just for watches and smartphone and tablet repair. You can do a little bit of everything there. Fixologyrepair.com.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations, Mall of America and the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at fixologymn on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
All right, let's hit some Twitter questions. Well, actually, first let me ask you. I was going to ask you what you do over like the 4th of July weekend or 4th of July week when things aren't quite as hopping as they usually are. But it sounds like you're spending all your time at Delwood Country Club now.
I pretty much do. I was there yesterday on the 4th of July. I went to Canterbury yesterday too, which was fun. And then went down to White Bear Lake to watch fireworks. So really late in the day, got back from Canterbury. So it's been fun suddenly living on the east side of this metro, that's for sure.
Good. Yeah, I'm enjoying just having a house where I look out over wetlands. It's just beautiful, which is very different from the downtown living experience, even though I enjoyed that too. All right, from Russo Slacks, we're going to give him the first pitch here because you're selecting him. I did it just so I could get that sigh of yours on the record from the Slacks.
Well, you know what I don't get is that he says that he can't make Photoshops anymore because he left his job.
Got fired from me.
Yeah, which I don't know if you should be doing Photoshops at that job. But
maybe that's why he doesn't have that job anymore.
But aren't there like Photoshop apps? Not that I want to give him idea, but there's got to be apps that he can continue his vocation.
I think you should just drive out to his house and show him how he can Photoshop things.
I don't know how to Photoshop. I don't.
I actually knew that. Russo Slacks asks, which are your favorite fireworks, Michael? Snaps or sparklers? I think that's some kind of a shot, but I don't really know enough about fireworks.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure. He knows me well. He knows that I would never, ever try to light. I would blow my arm off. So that's clearly
actually, that's an idea.
A subtle shot.
Maybe we should try to set up some fireworks. Might be interesting.
Yeah, that's a subtle shot.
From Harold Johnson on Twitter, which of the young players does Russo think will take the biggest step forward in the coming year?
Well, I'll just say it this way. For the Wild to make the playoffs next year, when you look at every other team, not only in this conference, but the division, they need all of them. You know, we go back to those years where we always said, it's time for Coyle, Niederreiter, Zucker, and Granlund to take the next step and become go-to guys on this team. And for a large part in the regular season, they absolutely did that. There was a time where they developed. Well, now these guys are super young, all under 23. And it's time. I mean, it might be too much pressure on them, but where this team goes next season is not going to be where Koivu, Stahl, Suter, and Parise take them. It's going to have to be the internal improvement from guys like Fiala, Donato, Kunin, Eriksson, and Greenway. If they are going to get significant ice time, they're going to be relied upon to produce, or this team will not make the playoffs next year.
From James on Twitter, what's the latest on Mitchell Marner signing offer sheets?
I don't know. I mean, after the ill-advised Aho one the other day, where Carolina clearly always was going to match that, I just don't think there's a way to do it in terms of actually getting the team not to match. And so the Wild are certainly not going to do it. And you also have to be understanding that these are lottery unprotected first round picks that you'd give up. So if you sign Marner to a deal that's more than $10.5 million, which would be the only way to get maybe to orchestrate something where Toronto can't match, there is absolutely the likelihood that you're going to have to, you would have to give up 4 first round picks in terms of compensation. And then could you imagine if you don't make the playoffs and you win the lottery and you just gave Toronto a top pick? Look at what just happened with Ottawa giving a top pick up to Colorado, and they wound up getting one of the best defensemen in the Western Hockey League in Byram. It's going to be an absolute guy, an absolute stud in the NHL. And then you look at Chicago, that goes from 12th, I think it was, up to 3rd. There's ways that you can not make the playoffs and win the lottery, and so it's a huge risk to go out and sign offer sheets. That's why you just never see it happen.
From Kyler, okay, does anybody know his pronunciation? Vasferet? Am I getting it right? I think this is one of those names I screw up every time.
I assume you're right.
Let's go with it. Any idea if Fenton is talking to... let me throw a couple more mispronunciations at you. Any idea if Fenton is talking to Vegas about Gusev or Edmonton about Puljujärvi?
Puljujärvi. I mean, nobody really seems to want Puljujärvi. And talking to people there, I see why. In terms of Gusev, I mean, this would be his 3rd team. I don't know how you get Gusev if you're the Minnesota Wild. You have to pay him. He's not coming to Vegas right now because he wants $4 million a year. They can't afford $4 million a year because they're at the cap, and they got to re-sign guys like Schultz and a couple other guys as well. Let me just look actually real quick at their roster and see who they've got to re-sign. So they're $2.5 million. And this guy wants that much. They're going to probably re-sign England, and then they got to re-sign RFAs, which won't be expensive. Subban and Schultz, who we don't even know if he'll be in the NHL, but they can't afford him. And so the only way to get him is pick some prospects. So all these people that keep on texting me or tweeting me, how about Zucker for Gusev? I think you're missing the point. There's a reason why they can't get Gusev signed. It's because he's asking for 4. Well, Zucker makes 5.5, and I don't think the Wild should be trading Zucker for Gusev and retaining money for a guy like Zucker, a 33 goal scorer, for an unproven guy in the NHL. Now Gusev's a hell of a talent, but I don't see right now how it would work for Minnesota to get in on that. And again, this is his 3rd team, so we'll see what happens with him. But right now, I just don't see how it's a fit right now for Minnesota.
Got to visit with Tony Hoagland out at the 3M Open earlier in the week. He takes some of his clients out to the TPC Twin Cities. I've played golf with him out there before. He also supplied tickets to the Friday round of 3M Open that we gave away last week. Really appreciate his support. Tony Hoagland, Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in the Twin Cities.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoagland. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
From El Duderino on Twitter, why did Fenton trade the third, preventing the offer sheet?
Because they're not doing an offer sheet. I mean, they are not giving anybody an offer sheet. It's that simple. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
From Nathan Olson, would Boudreaux or the Wild organization realistically put Koivu on the fourth line? I can't see that.
No, I can't see that. Tony Abbott, one of our analytics writers, broached that subject today. But unless he's coming to camp and he sort of needs to be, inched into the lineup and slowly build up his ice time, I don't see him on the fourth line. The Wild are not taking their stalwart captain in the final year of his contract and putting him on the fourth line unless Boudreaux is made to do that. And again, I don't care where he is in the lineup. If there's a big draw late in the game, Koivu's taking it, as he should, by the way, because there's nobody on the Wild that have shown that ability. The people on this, the fans out there that think that Mikko Koivu is absolutely meaningless to this team should look what happened to Eric Staal when Mikko Koivu went out. Eric Staal couldn't function on the ice in the last 35, 40 games of the season after Mikko's injury. Why? Because now all the matchups that Mikko takes, Staal was having to take, and it was absolutely affecting him to the point that we saw it on the ice. So, Mikko is going to get significant ice time on this team this season, and I just don't see it on the fourth line again unless the coach is absolutely forced to do that by people above them.
That's a great point about Staal. I probably hadn't thought about enough about why he was. I just thought he was having one of those old guy stretches where you fall off a little bit. But you're right. It was when Koivu was out.
Well, yeah, and that could have caused the old guy stretch. I mean, it's a totally different game for Eric Staal when Mikko's taking on the top players on the other team on a nightly basis.
Yeah, that makes
all
sense.
of a sudden Eric Staal is going out against much better, much worse matchups without Mikko in the lineup.
Thanks to BiteSquad.com, Bite Squad, the app, for sponsoring their program. Use the promo code TalkNorth for your first delivery fee waived. Deliver fresh food to you. It looks restaurant quality, and when it gets to your place, you don't have to do dishes, you don't have to park, you don't have to make reservations, you don't have to wait in line, you don't have to find, you have to deal with traffic or weather or anything else. They'll bring it to you. BiteSquad.com, Bite Squad, the app. Upload your information. It makes everything very easy. And again, Talk North is the code you use with first time you order through Bite Squad. From VHL, Simulation Hockey League, do you think Kerfoot might be the most valuable piece in the Barrie trade?
I don't know. It's funny. In the preseason last year, I remember Kerfoot lit up the Wild, the game that I was in Denver, and I tweeted out like this guy was going to have this huge breakout year for Colorado, and obviously that just didn't come into fruition. He's a good player. In terms of answering the question, if obviously if Toronto is unable to sign Tyson Barrie in a year, then Kerfoot's the most valuable piece in that. But if Barrie is extended and lives up to his expectations as a player, he's one hell of an offensive defenseman in the league. I still remember that guy when he was like 5-6 years old playing with Matchbox cars in the living room of a house that I was at in South Florida, because I was watching the trade deadline show one day on TSN with Jeff Rimmer, the Wild play-by-play guy, the Panthers play-by-play guy at the time, Len Barrie, his dad, who played for the Panthers, Mike Sillinger, who played for the Panthers, and then there was like little Len Barrie in the corner playing with his games. Tyson Barrie. Now Tyson's an absolute stud in the NHL. Just shows how old I'm getting.
Yeah, we're both moving the same direction. I'm just moving faster. Yep. From Kyle Bonds.
Just on another subject. So speaking of Tyson Barrie, so I was just talking to Spurgeon on the phone before we did this podcast, and I was looking at the free agents next year at defensemen. I mean, it is unbelievable the contract altering defenseman that could happen. I mean, this market could shift next year which is why Spurgeon could be making a fortune if the Wild are able to re-sign him. But the right shot D that are going into the final year of their contracts this upcoming year are Alex Pietrangelo, Justin Schultz for the Penguins, Tyson Barrie, obviously Toronto, Mike Green, who's not the same player he once was when he was scoring gazillion goals a year from the back end for Washington. But Jared Spurgeon, Sammy Vatanen, Justin Falk, and then the left shot stud D are Torrey Krug, TJ Brody, and Roman Josi. So there are so many defensemen out there that are going to get paid here in the next, whether it's this summer or into next year. But the other thing it does is if it ever gets to the point where the Wild have to trade Spurgeon because they're unable to get a contract done, it also shows that there should be potentially, assuming that all those guys don't re-sign with their current teams, there should be replacements out there for the Wild general manager. So it's just kind of interesting. I talked to Spurgeon a lot. I'll do a big story for next week on it, but I talked to him about the extension and what he's thinking, and it should be a good story next week.
From Kyle Bonstrom, will the NHL ever go to team or player options in contracts like Major League Baseball does?
They used to have that pre-2004-5 CBA. They got out of it in this current CBA. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's because they have a hard cap, so they felt like they need to have almost fiscal guarantees. Everybody kind of knows exactly, there's a resolute idea of exactly what is going to be your payroll if you project it out 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. I don't think it would be a bad deal. A perfect example, and maybe this is what's leading to the question, is you could have maybe offered Zuccarello a 4-year deal plus a player option or a club option, depending on either certain thresholds that potentially could shift the option, and maybe it would create less of a risk if all of a sudden a guy like Zuccarello falls off after year 4.
Yeah, I think it's a really logical thing. Player association probably prefer just straight guaranteed contracts, but it can be mutually beneficial. Sometimes the player gets out of a bad deal too.
Yep, exactly. There are certain guys that sign long term with the team that would love to get out of it.
Thinking of anybody in particular?
I don't know what you're talking about.
From our friend Russo's Filter, if it's a copycat league, what about the Blues and their run will teams try to emulate?
I don't know. The whole copycat thing I always find is funny because it's just, every year it's a different type of team that wins. I mean, this one, obviously, both St. Louis and Boston just pounded each other to oblivion. But you are what you are. I mean, the Wild can't play that way, so they better figure out a different way to try to win. But to me, also, copycat league is dangerous when you try to alter your team to become. Remember Anaheim when the Wild lost in 2007 to Anaheim. Next year, all of a sudden, Chris Simon and Todd Fedoruk were on the Wild, and then all of a sudden they win the division and they go out and they play Colorado and they're upset in the first round. I'm pretty sure that they got outskilled in that year. Plus, guys like Gaborik and Dimitra didn't perform in the playoffs. But all of a sudden, the Wild went kind of heavy, and it just didn't work for them. And so, to me, you also just have to look at your roster and try to win the way you're based. I mean, this team is what it is right now. They've got a lot of, undersized skill. They're trying to get faster, but you're not going to be able to play like St. Louis or be able to compete with St. Louis in that type of game with, the Fialas, the Donatos, Zuccarellos, even the Zacks, those type of players, even Koivu Stahl. I mean, they're not those type of players. The only ones that seem to thrive on the Wild in that type of game would probably be Cunnin, probably Hartman, probably Foligno. But even Greenway is not that type of player. The Wild would love him to get more physical, but the Wild just don't have that type of team. So, in terms of copycatting, you just can't do it. Again, your back end too, same thing. I mean, there's not a lot of grit back there. So, and Sealer might be the extra going into this year, quite honestly, on this team. I mean, there's a very good chance that Brad Hunt wins that job out of camp, and Sealer's the number 7 if he's still here.
It's been fun working with Tin Shed, tinshedmn.com. If you're down in the Savage area, anywhere in the southern suburbs, look them up. You can book an event. You can go to their website and check out their menu and their deals. You can order online, and it's great pizza, comfort food, beer specials. Check them out, tinshedmn.com. We appreciate their support of the program. A couple more Twitter questions, and we'll let you get back to your country club. From Matt Haza, the Wild. Well, actually, he was going to ask about size. I think you just answered that question. From Nikolai, is Fenton posturing with this roster because he's unhappy with what has been offered for the players he can or will trade, or is he okay with how the roster is now?
Well, look, when Fenton says that he is comfortable with this roster, I've heard every GM I've ever covered after free agency say those same things. So That's right out of the playbook, because Fenton knows if he doesn't make any more moves, he better sell that he's confident with this team, because the goal here is to win a cup and make the playoffs and all that stuff. In terms of posturing, I don't think so. I think that he has decided that right now the offers that were being made for Jason Zucker was not stuff that he wanted to do after Kessel agreed not to come here. So I really think that as of now, Zucker will be on this team unless something amazingly ends this year, changes this summer. In terms of Jared Spurgeon, his goal right away is to extend this guy's contract. At some point, they need to get in touch. They need to get in front of each other. Paul needs to sit down with Jared, probably face to face, and give him his plan for him to want to stay here. And it needs to happen. If it waits, I think that Paul's in major peril, where all of a sudden Jared's going to say, look, I'm not comfortable re-signing right now. Then they're going to go into a year where they potentially could struggle, and you're almost going to have to trade him at the deadline where the value is not anything close to what it was potentially at the draft, which is why, again, I was shocked that they didn't meet a month ago to at least start talking about what it would take to re-sign Jared Spurgeon. But regardless of all that, if he is saying right now, I'm not trading Spurgeon, then just look at this logically. What other pieces on the Wild are potentially valuable to trade right now? Not a whole lot. If we just assume that after trading for Donato or Fiala that he's not entertaining the possibility of trading them, and he's saying all along that he doesn't want to trade guys like Cunnin and Greenway, or maybe even the rights to Kaprizov, what are your other assets? There are none. Zucker's coming off a major injury, and he also had a breakout year before that injury, so you're probably not looking to move him right now. I don't think Brodin has a lot of value right now on the marketplace. They've been trying to trade Patterson to much avail. Even Foligno at 285, I'm sure he's respected around the league, but is he really giving you anything on this roster that's going to make you instantly better? Probably not. Same thing with Eriksson Ek. The guy has never had more than 20-something, if that, points in the NHL. So there's just, this is why I've been saying all along, all offseason, that if the Wild didn't trade these two in particular players, that I wasn't expecting a whole lot on the trade market. Because right now, I mean, like it or not, and it could be harsh, but just look at the Wild roster and what is potentially there that you're willing to move and what you could get for him. It's just not a whole lot. So I think when Paul Fenton says that he's comfortable with this roster, it's not him just trying to make other teams think he's comfortable with this roster and then he's going to all of a sudden swing this home run trade. I think he's saying it because he knows this very well could be the roster come September 12th when the Wild players report for camp.
Maybe the best question of the podcast from Gina. Any chance Russo can get Trampled by Turtles to play their cover of Tom Petty's Wildflowers at Bayfront tomorrow? It seemed to work last year, suggesting Our Town. It's such a beautiful song, and I've yet to hear them play it live. I love that song, and I'd love to have Trampled by Turtles play it.
I will. So during this podcast, this is going to be name dropping, but I've been in a group text with 3 of the band members, and actually, what I did send them, I hope Sharon, who comes to our podcast at Tin Shed, hope she's listening to this. I sent them a picture of this unbelievable gift that Sharon knitted for me. It's the Trampled by Turtles logo, their owl. This awesome frame that's sitting right on my desk here in my office as I do this podcast. And I'm staring at it during the podcast, and I decided to take a picture of it and send it to Simonette and Dave Carroll and Tim, the bass player. And they were all just going nuts about what this thing looks like. So maybe I'll just slip in there right now that they need to play Wildflowers. I have already sent them. So I have video of their Our Town last year, which is just, it sounds amazing on this video. I just happened to be going through my photos and videos yesterday, and I found it. So I kind of sent it to them to just almost like, without this time, like asking, please play Our Town. I sent it to them just to be like, almost like a subtle, like, hey, maybe you should play this again type thing, without actually saying it. It was more like, listen how cool this song sounds. So anyway.
I'll be fascinated to see if that works.
Yep. Thanks to Trampled by Turtles, by the way, for 200 shows now. Victory as the open and Winners as the final song. It's funny. I have so many people that tell me that whenever they hear Victory on the radio or hear the band sing Victory, that they half expect that all of a sudden you and I are going to be talking right after the intro of Victory.
And luckily for them, it's usually not the case.
Yeah, exactly. So, any other questions?
No, I was going to let the show end right there, but of course, it's even more awkward to talk about how we wanted to end the show and we didn't end the show, and we specialize in awkwardness, so we'll end it now. Or
I'm going to just so you know, I'm going to Europe on Monday.
Good luck. Enjoy. My wife and I are trying to plan a trip for next summer to get over there and see my sister, whose husband's stationed over there. So I know you always end up traveling a bunch of Wild fans and podcast listeners. So I hope you all have a great time.
Yep. Thank you.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
Holiday tips and fun facts from Paul, Kristen, and Dexter at Total Wine & More.
The custom of bumping glasses with the cheers came from old Rome. When in Rome, cheers!
A pork crown roast with cranberry stuffing deserves a ripe, fruit-forward Cabernet from Paso Robles. Let me help you find the perfect bottle.
Looking for the right wine for a meaningful gift? Consider me your wine concierge.
Whether you're entertaining or just bringing the wine, we'd love to share our always low prices and ridiculous selection with you. This holiday, now offering same-day delivery at TotalWine.com. Cheers! Holiday tips and fun facts from Paul, Kristen, and Dexter at Total Wine & More.
There's something celebratory about Bubbles. Our ridiculous selection of champagne and sparkling wines will make the holidays pop.
Who couldn't use a friendly wine elf? I can help you find the perfect bottle at just the right price.
Deep frying a turkey this year? A rich and earthy Chateau Neuf de Pape would make an interesting pairing.
Whether you're entertaining or just bringing the wine, we'd love to share our always low prices and ridiculous selection with you. This holiday, now offering same-day delivery at TotalWine.com. Cheers!